Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from the retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam, Brilliant as the Sun, Canto 1, The Sages of Naimisharanya, Chapter 12, Parikshit born. Parikshit's vision whilst in his mother's womb. At his birth, astrologers describe his illustrious future. Chapter 12, verses 1 to 6. Eager to return to Parikshit's history, Shaunak said, "Please tell us how Krishna protected the unborn Parikshit from the unstoppable Brahmastra. Why did that great monarch die in the prime of his life? Also pray, tell us his destination after death. Since Shukadev chose to speak the Srimad Bhagavatam to him, we are intrigued to know more about him." To properly comprehend Parikshit's greatness, replied Sutta, one must understand the position of his grandfather Yudhishthir. Although his opulence and power were so extensive that even the celestials envied him, Yudhishthir had no attachment to worldly enjoyment. Like his father Pandu, his mind was always fixed on Krishna's service, and he wielded his imperial power without personal ambition. Due to his great love for Krishna, he was blessed with a most exalted grandson, Parikshit. Sutta picked up Parikshit's story from the moment when Ashwathama's Brahmastra scorched him while he was still in his mother's womb. Chapter 12, verses 7 to 14. As the unborn child was being scorched by the sun, a small form coming to his aid, and his eyes were blood red with fury. Dressed in yellow garments, adorned with a brilliant golden helmet and earrings, he encircled the embryo like a shooting star. Constantly whirling his club, he neutralized the Brahmastra's radiation. When the weapon's glare had subsided, he stopped moving. The baby could now more clearly see the charming features of his benefactor, who smiled briefly at him and then disappeared. From the moment on, he constantly wondered about the identity of the mysterious hero who had saved him from certain death. When the child was born, his grandfathers rejoiced from the auspicious placement of the planets. They could tell this boy would be a powerful ruler, just like the great King Pandu. Yudhishthir arranged festivities to celebrate the birth of his heir. He invited great sages and Brahmanas to perform the birth rites and gave them abundant charities. Chapter 12, verses 15 to 31. Pleased by Yudhishthir's generosity, the Brahman said, "O best of men, though your dynasty was devastated by the influence of all-powerful time, the Supreme Lord has personally saved this boy. Because Lord protected him, he will become famous as Vishnu Ratha, most fortunate one. There is no doubt that this child will become a first-class devotee, decorated with all good qualities." Yudhishthir anxiously inquired, "Will he be as powerful and virtuous as our famed ancestors?" The chief priest, after examining the child's horoscope, said, "This boy will resemble King Ikshvaku in his ability to protect the citizens. He will be exactly like Lord Ram in taking guidance from the Brahmanas and in truthfulness, comparable to the famous King Shibi in giving charity. He will protect whoever seeks his shelter and will expand your dynasty's influence as did Bharat, the son of Dushyant. He will be a great archer like his grandfather Arjun. Indeed, no one will be able to defeat him. His physical strength will be no less than a lion's, and in his ability to shelter others, he will be like the Himalayas. He will be forgiving like the earth itself and as tolerant as a loving parent. Like you, Yudhishthir, he will be equal toward all. He will be as liberal as Shiva and will resemble Narayan in his willingness to give protection to supplicants. Because he always worships Krishna, he will develop qualities almost on an equal level with the Lord. In generosity, he will be like the famous Rantidev, and in adherence to religious principles, he will be like King Yayati. The child will grow up to be as perseverant as Bali, mighty leader of the Asuras, and in his devotion to Krishna, he will equal the great Prahlad. Rest assured, he will perform many sacrifices and be guided by wise and respected elders to maintain world peace and uphold religious principles. He will be bold in punishing unruly men. The Brahmana paused and looked away, hesitating to say more. Yudhishthir became worried. Please do not hide anything from us, he begged. Will he face any difficulty? The elderly priest took a deep breath and answered, O king, a Brahman will curse him to die by the bite of a snake bird. Yudhishthir and his 4 brothers looked shocked. How could such a noble king incur a Brahmana's curse? They looked quizzically at the priest, who explained, This Brahmana will be an immature child acting rashly. However, your grandson will take the curse as an opportunity to detach himself from the world and surrender to Krishna. Yudhishthir felt reassured. Anything that led to Krishna's service was always auspicious. Can you tell us more? He asked. At that time, he will make spiritual enquiry from Shukadev Goswami, Vyasadev's exalted son. He will thus become purified of all material attachments and attain complete fearlessness. Yudhishthir and his brothers gazed down affectionately at the sleeping baby. This child was surely blessed. Glad at heart, they distributed copious gifts to the Brahmanas. The young prince flourished under the loving care of his 5 grandfathers. Whenever he would see someone for the first time, he would intently examine their face, wondering if that individual might be that same person who had rescued him while in his mother's womb. Chapter 12, verses 32 to 36, Shaunak asked how Yudhishthir had funded his sacrifices so soon after the war, which had exhausted his treasury. Sutta explained that Krishna had told him where the king Marut had left vast gold reserves in the Himalayas. With Krishna's encouragement, Yudhishthir's brothers journeyed to the north and collected that hidden treasure, which was more than sufficient to finance 3 sacrifices. Sutta said the Pandavas were so dear to Krishna that he returned to Hastinapur to personally oversee the sacrifices, making sure that all the priests were properly qualified. He again remained for a few months with his aunt and cousins before returning to Dwarka, accompanied by the Yadus and his intimate friend Arjun. Yudhishthir became the emperor after so much difficulty, and on Krishna's behest, said Shaunak, why and when did he retire, allowing Parikshit to take his place? Sutta thanked Shaunak for his question. You are giving me more and more opportunities to speak about Krishna's pure devotees. This is even more powerful than speaking about the Lord himself. Sutta began to describe the incidents leading up to Pandavas retiring, beginning with the return to Hastinapur of the Pandavas' uncle Vidur. So the last lines Sutta has summed up for us that speaking about Krishna's pure devotees is even more auspicious than speaking about the Lord himself. So we will continue with chapter 13. Vidur instructs the blind king next time. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.